When the USCSS Prometheus arrived on LV-223, the crew, led by Dr. Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway, discovered a temple, which they explored. When they disturbed a room containing ampoules of chemical A0-3959X.91, 15, the chemical began to leak out of the urns onto the floor, infecting several worms which mutated into Hammerpedes. Millburn and Fifield, two members of the crew, got lost and managed to reach the same urn room, where they discovered two Hammerpedes. One of them rose and scared Fifield, but Millburn looked upon it, fascinated. Millburn unwisely tries to touch the creature despite it obviously showing warning posture, and it flared its crests and attacked him, constricting Millburn's arm. Fifield tried to help Millburn, but his touching it only made the Hammerpede constrict tighter, which resulted in it breaking Millburn's arm. In a further attempt to save Millburn, Fifield cut off the Hammerpede's head, causing its acidic blood to spray on Fifield's helmet faceplate, which melted it. The Hammerpede then regrew its head, showing its regenerative abilities, and slipped into Millburn's suit through a hole made by his protruding bone, entering his mouth and killing him. Meanwhile, Fifield fell into the A0-3959X.91, 15 on the floor, which would later begin to transform him into a grotesque mutant. When the rest of the crew went to save the two members the next day, they discovered Millburn's body, and a Hammerpede jumped out of his mouth and back into the A0-3959X.91, 15. The origin of the worms that the Hammerpedes mutated from has been debated constantly. Some say they could have been native to LV-223, which is unlikely due to the atmosphere. Others think that the engineers brought them to LV-223, possibly for testing the chemical A0-3959X.91, 15. Another possible explanation is that they may have been aboard the Prometheus and was under the feet of one of the crew members. However, the worms then should have fallen off sooner if not killed by being exposed to the atmosphere, and even so, they would have most likely died of starvation aboard the Prometheus long before it reached LV-223. Another possibility is that the engineers had brought the soil in which the worms inhabited, in order to replicate their native planet's atmosphere. This would also account for why the black liquid was released when the humans entered the chamber. The native planet's atmosphere would also have been mirrored, so that the presence of humans or other organisms would alter the chamber's atmosphere, releasing the pathogen, which would also account for why the worms in particular were used in the soil. An alternate explanation is that the worms were generated by the black liquid. The progress from small particles observed by the android David, to worms, to the snake-like Hammerpedes may be something innate to the black liquid. It generates life, and this life progresses from simpler to more complex forms through a series of stages.